Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves. Today we are going to talk about a little bit of critical theory and rock climbing. I'll see you in a second. All right, so let me make clear, I am no expert rock climber. I'm not even a very good beginner. Anyway, I'm here at a rock climbing gym because my son has really gotten into the sport and he's over on some wall in front of me. But I want to talk to you about critical theory, the movement in philosophy often associated with the Frankfurt School. These thinkers are people like Marcuse, Adorno, Horkheimer, and then later that Frankfurt School, the thinkers working there in Frankfurt, Germany, gave rise to a kind of second generation of critical theory. And here we can associate people like Benjamin, Michel Foucault, even folks I would suggest like Hannah Arendt have some interesting links to a critical theoretical apparatus. So what is critical theory and why does going to a rock climbing gym help us think about it? Well, in brief, critical theory is the awareness of not only a hermeneutic frame of reference by which anything we make sense of is found. In other words, we are aware that there is a context of prior interpretive decisions framing what we then interpret as meaningful. Right? So critical theory reminds us of that, but what it also does is helps us then attend to different structural realities, different ways of making sense of how power serves to structure our lives and structure our institutions. Now, what this looks like, I think, is actually something like rock climbing. So if you look behind me, you'll see all kinds of different routes up the mountain or the wall. They're color-coded, different difficulty levels, but the idea is there's not only one way up. There's not just one strategy for being successful at achieving the goal of climbing the wall. Critical theory says the same kind of thing when it comes to navigating the world of social interaction. There's not only one way through. The problem is we tend to understand the world as obvious, as fixed, as the real world, as a thing that is just structurally already predetermined. Our goal then, it seems, is to just get the right skill sets, get the right degree, the right education, the right background, to be able then to go into the world and achieve success. But part of what critical theory reminds us of is that all of these different ways of going forward are themselves anchored in different types of contingent social circumstances. There are already power structures functioning to prevent us often from seeing a different way forward. So if we were to apply this to the rock wall, imagine if we had painted all of the non-red holds with invisible paint. Or at least painted them the same color as the wall such that they were hard to see. Well, then we would think that there's only one way up. The red wall, the red climb, that's the way forward. But it turns out that what critical theory does is allows us to start painting with different colors, to see that there are different routes available. It allows us to understand that we didn't paint the wall, someone else did. Their interests, their power structure, their desires are impacting and affecting the way we navigate our lives. Now, what this then means is not that we are not still free. It means that our freedom, our agency is nested within these structural realities. So attending to them, as Foucault says, that often what we claim to be true or even what we claim as knowledge is itself a reflection of those power dynamics. So this again doesn't mean that there is no truth. It just means that any claim to truth is going to have to take seriously which holds are being presented to us as standing out from the background conditions. Which are the ones we just take for granted and which are the ones we've got to do some work to see. Now, this then gets applied, and we might say like a third generation of critical theory to issues of identity. So when we talk about who we are, we also receive our very selfhood from these structural realities. It's not just our social location, but it's also how we even make sense of our identity. So race, gender, these sorts of categories are categories that impact who then gets an easier route up the mountain and who has a harder route to navigate. So when we talk about marginalization, when we talk about categories like oppression, these are not dichotomies that dictate everything in the world, right? It would be wrong to think that critical theory means the whole world is oppressed and oppressor. It would be right to understand that critical theory helps us see that oppression is one mode in which different bodies, different identities, and different social locations have a harder route up the wall. In this way, privilege then becomes the special access to the easier route up. So why is critical theory important? Because it does a wonderful job at helping us see what we often forget, of attending to the way that decisions of others are affecting the decisions we now make. And it is structurally making us aware of the fact that when we go forward in life, when we navigate society, when we hold views about how society should work, we are often already being impacted and shaped by those powerful dynamics. How then do we respond? Not by abandoning critical theory because it's wrecking truth, but appreciating critical theory as an actually really good resource for understanding how truth tends to work, for what is true, for taking seriously there's a lot of routes up the mountain. I hope it's a helpful way for you to understand critical theory is not the oppressive discourse of the woke mob, like it is often presented. It is instead a powerful philosophical tool, a methodology for getting better at seeing what is going on behind the scenes in what we so often take for granted. All right, so I hope that's helpful. I'm gonna go over and watch my son hit some gnarly routes. I'll see you next time, unless a piano falls on our heads.